All right, let's flesh out the progression for the press. This is where we're gonna really dig into each one of these pieces. Now, just to start things all off with, the biggest thing for the press is the setup. Not the biggest, but it's the most time-consuming piece where you spend so much time making sure they set up correctly. Because remember, the press is our foundation for our push press and our push jerk. If we set up incorrectly, the chances of us doing these other movements correctly, very low. So we really spend a lot of time hammering home this setup, especially with new athletes so that they do it right. So first thing, we go to stance. Stance is going to differ for them from the squatting stance, which is actually a landing stance, to a jumping stance. Now the jumping stance is feet directly under those hips. Now not in relation to the shoulders. Now, Jason has a relatively narrow stance here. I'm actually gonna widen him up just a smidgems because he has a bit more childbearing hips than he was expecting. So now I look down at his feet, I put my eyes on his feet, and I go, does this look right for this athlete? Now some athletes will want to take a little narrower stance like he did. Some will take a little bit wider. Remember, you're the coach. You put them in position. Let them prove you wrong rather than just being like, whatever, looks good. You want to be like, okay, is this the right stance for that athlete? It looks good to me now. It was too narrow earlier for me. Now, even though he might normally go there and he's an athlete of high regard, I would just move him wider and let him prove me wrong down the road. So we got there, eyes on the feet. Then we have to talk about balance. Balance about the foot. And usually the way I do this is I have somebody say, hey, go all the way forward till you're about to fall over. Okay, go ahead and relax. Now lean back, lift those toes up, you're gonna fall over backwards, go ahead and relax. I want you in neither of those two places. And what you're looking at is the athlete's balance, seeing what all the way in the heels feels like, seeing what all the ways in the toes feels like. And then I say, I want you to be balanced about the foot, so grab the ground with your big toe, and then shift your weight back just a little bit. That's you. So you've got a full foot on the ground, and you've got your weight shifted back to being balanced about the foot. So once again, we rock back and forth, feel what that feels like, and then talk about balance. From there, we have to talk about the grip. Grip is going to be the same thing that we had for the front squat, where we're looking up at the top, and we're outside of our shoulders. Now, where this differs from the front squat is how you're holding on to it. But oftentimes what happens here is, hey, take a grip outside your shoulders, what we say, we bring it up, and your eyeballs go to the hands in relation to the shoulders. People's shoulders are different, people's hands are different, but they'll either take too narrow a grip or too wide a grip, just like the front squat. And you'll have to be like, nope, narrower, or nope, wider. The main thing though is we're looking for just outside these shoulders. Now, as we move into other parts of this, they might have a slightly wider grip or a slightly narrower grip than the people around them, and that'll kind of be due to lat tightness, wrist stuff they got going on, shoulder tightness, but we want this just outside the shoulder position. So that's the grip. From there, we also want to look at the hands and make sure they have a full grip on the bar, because if they've front squatted before, or if they've done any of these movements, they tend to want to take a slightly looser grip, but you have to let them know that we're going to be pressing up overhead, so we want a full grip on that bar. So he's got a nice full grip. So eyes have gone to there, eyes have then gone to making sure it's in relation to the body and it was all good, and that's fantastic to start. Now go ahead and relax. Each between these progressions, you're getting him in and out of the position a bunch of times and saying, okay, now get back up, and then you're paying attention to those shoulders. From there, we have to look at elbow position. We want the elbows to be right under the bar or slightly in front. We just don't want them super high, and we don't want them behind the bar. So wherever that is for the athlete, we're just looking for just in front of the bar or directly under it. That's our main goal there. We don't want anything extreme on either side. So again, my eyeballs go to the elbows in relation to the rest of the system. Keep checking back to the feet. We're looking good. So we get them out of it, and then we get them back into it. Last thing we do is we say, we're gonna need your belly braced nice and tight. And the bracing we're looking for is if I'm gonna just punch you in the stomach and you just give them a good whack on the stomach, and you see that they braced and they were like, oh my goodness, I was about to be hit. And you say, that's the bracing I want. Go ahead and relax. And you can have them just stand and pat their belly or whatever it is, but we're bracing like we're gonna get hit, and that's the focus of the bracing. And you don't need to do much more than that. If you wanna get a little handsy, you can, just make sure it's always appropriate. Go ahead and put it up. I generally will come around to somebody who I know is gonna be okay with it and do that. I generally don't touch the opposite sex, but that's just my whole thing. And always be comfortable with your athlete and make sure that they are okay with that process. Don't assume. I know that Jason is, he signed a waiver beforehand. Go ahead and relax. Now, every time we're going to the next piece of progression, you're revisiting the previous piece to make sure that they go back to those places. So I look at the bracing and I go, that's good. And then I make sure his elbows are okay. I make sure his grip is okay. I make sure his stance is okay. He went a little narrower again because he's going back to his old stance. So I'm gonna widen him back up, and I'm gonna go ahead and relax. So that's our foundation. We've set that all up. Now, a lot of coaches from here will teach Okay, now we're gonna get the head out of the way and we're gonna press. I myself like to then say, hey, I want you to now talk about where we're going. We're gonna go to where the bar is straight overhead, okay? This angle of the shoulder needs to be a straight line, and we can't take any movement from the trunk. So what I'll say is, put the bar up over your head. I won't even ask him to press it. I'll just say, hey, put it up overhead. And then I'll come and put my eyes on this, keep this nice and braced, and then look at the angle of the shoulder. Now, a lot of the cueing here is gonna be saying, hey, pull that bar back. Hey, flex that stomach. Hey, pull that bar back. Hey, brace the stomach. And then I'm gonna say, hey, squeeze your butt so I don't have to. Good, and then he squeezes his butt, and then he pulls it back, and then he starts sweating. Go ahead and relax. And this balance here of pulling it back to get it over the middle of the foot, pulling the rib cage down, and squeezing that butt to find that good finish, this is like an in and out 5 or 6 times, and each athlete's gonna have a varying place that they fall on. They might be really flared out with the rib cage. They might be extra mobile, so they'll pull it behind them, and you'll say, pull it forward. But they all gonna have these weird little issues, and what you're trying to find is a consistent place right over the body. The tighter the shoulders, the harder they'll have to work. And the more they're gonna wanna take that range from the rib cage and spine. So you have to put your eyes there and that angle of the bar over the body. So that's where you go between those two, and you make that balance happen until people who are hard, who are tighter in the shoulders are sitting there sweating. So you go that a bunch of times, and you get them to nail that. Once they've got that, you say, hey, let's go back to the beginning and connect those 2 points. And how do we connect those in a straight line? Well, we gotta get our face out of the way. So now you know where you're going, you know where to start, and we're gonna do this by tucking our chin back and seeing how many chins we can make. It's a chin contest, and you go, dang, that's good. And yeah, even if they're like, they kind of do it slightly, you want them to like, oh, show me those chins. Yeah, all the chins. Yeah, good, look, he grew this hair out for that. You want them to make extra chins, because if they make too few chins and they start to move dynamically in the push press and the push jerk, they'll smash their schnoz or their chin. So we over exaggerate it, chin way back, and then we have them get to your setup position. Then we have them press the bar towards the face, past the head, and lock out overhead. Fix the lockout, fix all that stuff, make sure it stays tight to the face, and then elbows break forward, head back, and come all the way down. So eyes on this, once they get set up, are making sure that when they tuck their chin back, you're making sure they press back towards their face, not pressing forward. Once they lock out, you look to see that they get to that position we previously taught them. Once they did, you go, okay, now pull the head back, put the elbows forward, bring it all the way down, and end up in that exact same position. That's the layering of it, and that's where your eyes go and how you dig in, and then each one of those pieces can manifest as a fault. You're gonna have to keep investing in the stance. You're gonna have to keep reinvesting in those elbows. Keep on the bar. You're gonna keep pulling the head back, and each one of those can kind of crop out as a new thing, but that's our progression for start to finish from the press. Thank you for watching, and if you found that helpful and you want more of this kind of content, we have literally hundreds of videos just like this, from practical tips and tricks to theory to everything in between, all in the knowledge. And if you want to learn from me directly and our cohort of level 4 staff members, then we also have the Knowledge Pro, which we do weekly calls and live interaction and homework and everything else in between. If you want any more information or would like to have a free trial of the knowledge, please click the link in the description below and get after it.